At a time when Nigeria faces one of its most severe economic crises in decades, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's decision to depart for a 2-week vacation in London is not only a poor judgment call, but an insult to the collective hardship of the Nigerian people. Nigerians are grappling with skyrocketing inflation, rising prices of essential commodities, and a decaying security infrastructure that has left many in constant fear. Despite these critical challenges, Tinubu has chosen this moment to prioritize his personal comfort over the desperate needs of the country. Officially, Tinubu's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, has described the trip as part of the president's annual leave, justifying it as a working vacation during which the president will reflect on his administration's economic reforms. While the idea of reflection may seem plausible on the surface, it is completely detached from the reality that the Nigerian people are facing. Tinubu has looked Nigerians in the face and told them they are not important. In times of severe crisis, a leader who understands and empathizes with the suffering of his people should be fully present, actively engaged in finding solutions, and personally leading the effort to guide the nation back from the brink of economic and social collapse. A vacation, no matter how it is framed, cannot be justified at a time like this. Tinubu's actions bear an uncanny resemblance to those of his predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari, who was widely criticized for spending large portions of his tenure in the United Kingdom, often on medical leave, while Nigeria sailed on to the edge of collapse. Buhari's frequent absences became symbolic of his administration's disengagement from the real issues facing Nigerians. His choice to always retreat to foreign shores in times of crisis made it clear that the country's leadership was not in touch with the realities at home. Unfortunately, it appears that Tinubu is continuing this troubling pattern, showing that his priorities, like Buhari's, lie outside Nigeria's borders. Since taking office 16 months ago, Tinubu has already visited 27 foreign destinations, with his trip to London marking his 4th to the United Kingdom. His frequent travel, while often defended as necessary for diplomatic purposes, raises serious questions about his commitment to resolving the deep-seated issues plaguing Nigeria. The president's ongoing absence from the country is not only a logistical problem, it's a symbolic one. It signifies a leadership style that is far removed from the struggle of everyday Nigerians who continue to suffer under the weight of one of the worst economic crises in Nigeria's history. The Nigerian economy is not merely in trouble, it is on the verge of collapse. Inflation has reached a record high, decimating the purchasing power of citizens across all socio-economic classes. Food prices have soared to levels that make even the most basic staples unaffordable for many families. Transportation costs have skyrocketed, driven by the ever-increasing price of fuel, which in turn impacts the cost of goods and services across the board. The Naira, once a symbol of national pride and economic instability, has reduced value, compounding the crisis and casting a shadow of uncertainty over the nation's financial future. Small businesses, the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, are folding under the pressure of unsustainable costs. Entrepreneurs who once dreamed of creating jobs and driving economic growth are now being forced to shutter their operations, unable to cope with the harsh and exorbitant cost of life, cost of fuel, raw materials, and basic utilities. Unemployment is rising and the prospects for job creation are bleak. The consequences of this economic downturn are catastrophic, not only for individuals and families, but for the entire social fabric of Nigeria. Everything is a mess. Poverty is deepening. And with it comes the specter of increased crime, social unrest, and instability. In this context, it is unconscionable that the president of Nigeria will choose to leave the country for a personal retreat at a time when Nigerians are crying out for leadership, for solutions, and for hope. Tinubu has instead chosen to focus on his own needs. His vacation, no matter how it is spawned by his aides, is a glaring display of indifference to the suffering of the Nigerian people. It speaks volumes about where his priorities lie, not with the masses struggling to survive in an increasingly hostile economic environment, but with his own personal comfort and leisure. While the economy is in a free fall, the security situation in Nigeria continues to worsen. In many parts of the country, insecurity has become a normal thing. It has become a daily reality where kidnappings, banditry, and terrorism wreaking havoc on communities. The government's response to these security challenges has been largely inadequate, with security forces often overwhelmed or under-resourced to tackle the myriad of threats facing the nation. Rather than addressing these critical issues heads-on, President Tinubu has opted to flee the country at a time when his presence and leadership are most needed. This sends a dangerous message to both Nigerians and the international community that the government is disengaged from its people and unable to offer the kind of leadership needed to address these severe threats. Insecurity, like economic collapse, erodes public confidence in governance. For a president to take a vacation while his citizens live in fear of violence and lawlessness speaks not just to poor judgment but to a lack of empathy on the part of the president. Nigerians deserve a leader who will stand with them in times of crisis, not one who chooses to leave the country when the going gets tough. That clearly is what Tinubu has done. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's decision to embark on a 2-week vacation reflects where his true priorities lie. Now, while it is understandable that every leader needs rest, there is a time and a place for it. This is not the time. A leader who is aware of his country's plight would have found a way to manage his responsibilities without abandoning ship in the middle of a storm. Tinubu's frequent travels, particularly to the United Kingdom, raises the question: is he more committed to his ties abroad than to the citizens who elected him? It is also worth noting that Tinubu's departure comes on the heels of a meeting with King Charles III during a previous trip to London. While diplomatic engagements are an important and essential part of a president's duties, the frequency with which Tinubu travels abroad suggests that his administration may be prioritizing foreign relations over domestic recovery. This is very sad, of course. His 27 foreign trips in just over a year have raised eyebrows, especially given the severity of the issues at home. With each trip, Nigerians are left wondering when their president will devote the same energy and attention to addressing the crises that directly impact their lives. Leadership is about more than holding office. It is about being present, responsive, and committed to the welfare of the people. Tinubu doesn't seem to understand this clearly, of course. In times of crisis, true leaders emerge by standing with their citizens, listening to their concerns, and actively working to find solutions. President Tinubu's absence during this time is a betrayal of the trust placed in him by the Nigerian people. He was elected to guide the nation through turbulent times, yet his actions suggest a president who is out of touch with the reality and needs of the people. What Nigeria needs right now is not a leader who takes refuge in foreign shores, but one who works tirelessly and leads from the front. If Tinubu cannot do this, then he should resign, clearly. The economic situation is dire. The security challenges are overwhelming, and the people are losing faith in the government's ability to provide solutions. President Tinubu's vacation sends the message that the plight of ordinary Nigerians is not his priority, and this is deeply troubling for a country already on the brink. What message are you trying to send? As Nigerians continue to endure worsening economic and security conditions, it is important that the president's actions are met with accountability. We must ask pertinent questions. The Nigerian people deserve answers about why their leaders feel justified in leaving the country at such a critical juncture. And when these questions are asked, answers need to be provided. They deserve to know how the government plans to address the escalating crisis in its absence and what concrete steps are being taken to reverse the downward spiral of the economy and restore the security situation in the country. More than anything, Nigerians deserve a president who will demonstrate that their welfare is his top priority. Tinubu's decision to take a vacation during one of the most challenging periods in recent history is not just an error in judgment, it is an abdication of responsibility. It is appalling, to say the least. His predecessors have shown similar patterns of absenteeism, but Nigerians hoped for a change. Instead, they are witnessing a continuation of the same tone-deaf governance that has defined the country's recent past. President Tinubu's 2-week leave, while presented as a necessary working vacation, is tone-deaf and insensitive to the struggles of millions of Nigerians. In a time of profound economic instability, rising inflation, and insecurity, the president's absence signifies a growing disconnect between the leadership and the people it is meant to serve. Nigerians are left to question whether their leaders truly understand the gravity of the situation and whether they are willing to address and take the necessary steps to provide the leadership the country desperately needs. By choosing to depart at such a critical moment, Tinubu has not only failed in his duty as the head of state, but is also sending a clear message about his priorities. Unfortunately, those priorities do not seem to include the Nigerian people who are bearing the brunt of a crisis that shows no signs of easing. What Nigeria needs now is a leadership rooted in accountability, empathy. Empathy is very important here, and of course, action. Anything less is a betrayal of the nation's trust, and history will not look kindly on leaders who choose to abandon their responsibilities in times of need. President Tinubu, I hope you are taking notes.